This is lesson 3.2, Viewports and Sheet Layers. In this lesson you will learn how to create viewports in detail. You will learn how to control annotation in viewports. You will learn how to control viewport crops. You will learn how to use class overrides. And you will learn how to control lighting in viewports. Back to Vectorworks. In this exercise we're going to learn how to use viewports in detail. So we've got a familiar exercise. This is the same one we used for 3.1. This is lesson 3.2. So open your exercise file for lesson 3.2. There's also another file that I've given you which is lesson 3.2 building. So we're going to do two different exercises on this, and hopefully when we get to the building we can do a lot more sophisticated things. So let's just have a look at this. We want to create a plan view of our bracket. So we've got here information on different layers. There's the bracket that we want to use. We're going to go to a top plan view. Don't forget you can hit key 0 on your numeric keypad and go straight away to a top view. I'm just going to zoom in, so I'm going to use my zoom tool. That's this one here. There is a keyboard shortcut for that, or a hotkey, which is the letter C. Or you can scroll your mouse wheel and zoom in that way. Just remember, when you scroll your mouse, it does matter where you put your mouse when you scroll. So I'm going to scroll in a bit. There's my bracket. I want a rectangle. So choose my rectangle tool. And my rectangle wants to be about this big. It doesn't matter exactly how big it is, just as long as it totally encloses our bracket. View on the menu bar, and we're going to choose Create Viewport. Now I'm back in the Fundamentals workspace. I know previously I've jumped between the Architect or the Landmark and the Fundamentals. With this we can do all in our Fundamentals workspace. So we're going to create a viewport. The selected object may be used as the viewport's crop. Do you want to do this? And I say yes to this, and I also always do the selected action. So from now on you will not see this dialog come up because I've chosen always do it. And yes, we will always use that. Whenever an object is selected like that, it will always become the crop of my viewport. So we want to create this on a sheet layer. We don't have a sheet layer, so we need to make one. So this is a new sheet layer. 001 is the number, and the title is my balustrade bracket drawing. Here's my balustrade bracket drawing. Click OK. I'm not editing properties after creation. So I can give it a number, and I can give it a name. So this will be my plan view. I can also put the plan view as part of the name. So I can copy that, turn this off here, and I can put it there. Now if you automatically name the viewport as the drawing number sheet number, it will automatically be 1 on 001. Which is great until you start to renumber or move them around, because now it'll be, although the drawing number might change to number 2, the name will still be 01. So maybe it's easier to give it a name that makes sense. These names have to be unique. So sometimes what I do is I put VP, meaning viewport, so it's easier for me to have that name separate from any other name that I might have in my document. Let's have a look at what layers we want to use. So in this case, do we want to see the structure and the balustrade, or just the balustrade? So we don't need the structure. If you remember, the structure was the steel beam and it was the timber, all that kind of stuff, and by removing that entire layer we're removing a whole bunch of information all with one go. Let's have a look at our classes. What classes do we want? Do we want the bottom rail? Probably not. Do we want the post? No. We don't want the top rail. We want dimensions. We want none. Do we want washers? No. We don't want the flooring, the floor joists. Do we want the bolts? No. And let's go OK. I think this is stainless. It's on the stainless steel class. I don't want to take away too much. I can always remove them later, but I want to take away the ones that I do know. So OK to that. So what about the scale? 1 to 1 should be fine for this bracket. It should fit on a piece of paper just fine. The detail level, medium, will be good for this. We've got the ability to have different levels of detail. In this particular file, there aren't any levels of detail assigned to our symbols, so we'll just leave that on medium. My view will end up being top, because when I change to dashed hidden line, Vectorworks will change that to top for me already. Let's look at my render settings. So my dash style wants to be dash style 2 with a light one, And if I wanted to make the sketchy, I can click on that, and that will sketch my hidden line results. I'll show you that in a minute so that we can see whether we want to use it or not. At a concept stage, it's a really good idea to turn on sketch hidden line results so that the client understands that it's a sketchy design, that it's not finalized. Let's click OK. My projection should be orthogonal. I can choose different projection types, but I want that to be orthogonal. Do we want to display planar objects? Yes. Do we want to project screen plane objects? You might remember we looked at things that were layer plane, screen plane, working plane. Sometimes you might want to project screen plane objects because you've drawn them as 2D information only and you want those to show up in your viewports. So sometimes in my building projects I need to turn that on in order to see my screen plane objects. So that should be everything. Click OK, and there's my detail on my piece of paper, and you can see its actual size. Let's just check our page setup. So File on the menu bar, and we want Page Setup just here. So let's go to my printer setup. I need to choose my A3 printer. I want this to be an A3 page. Okay, it's about 11 by 17, I think. Let's just change some inches. Yeah, so we've got 11 by 17 page. Let's go OK, and let's click on this button here so we can fit to page. So does that give us enough room to put that on? And if it doesn't, I might have to change my scale to 1 to 2, which is quite easy. I can do it right there. So maybe 1 to 2 scale is about the right size, and you might notice that my label automatically changed its scale. So we'll start off at 1 to 1. Now this bracket is about 175 millimeters high. There might just be enough room for it to fit here if I move this label. We'll come back to that. Now let's return back to our balustrade design layer. That's our balustrade design layer, and we'll change to a front view. So just here we'll choose front, and there's my 3D view, and it's in a perspective view. Just here I'm on normal perspective. I'd like that to be orthogonal, so it's square onto to my bracket. I need a rectangle, so my rectangle goes from about here to about there, and I need to change this to screen plane. If I don't change this to screen plane over here, I will not be able to use that rectangle as part of my viewport. Now if the object is vanished, we'll take that away. We'll change here to screen plane view, and we'll draw that rectangle again so that it stays on the screen. Now you might notice that it's vanished. It's vanished because of this unified view. If I turn off the unified view, you can see there is my rectangle. It's difficult to see. It would be easier to see maybe if I went back to wireframe. And we can also go back to our layers and we can say just the active layer only, please. So there it is there. You can see it's in wireframe. You can see my object quite clearly. I'll just delete that and let's go through that again. Now this option here, the unified view, has some options on it that make screen plane objects invisible. View on the menu bar, unified view options just here. So there's a unified view option here which is display screen plane objects. If I turn that back on and we show all of my layers again and we render the view, so I've turned them all back on again. This time when I draw my rectangle in screen plane, it should show it on the drawing. So there it is there. So if you want to see those, you will have to go to View, you will have to choose Unified View Options, and you will have to turn on Display Screen Plane Objects. Otherwise they will not show up. Now that I've got it selected and I've checked to make sure it's on screen plane, then I will go to View and Create Viewport. Now you might notice I didn't get the dialog box this time. If your object is not on the screen plane, at this point it will not be used as the crop, and we'll see what happens later on when that happens. So here we're going to call this our front view VP for viewport, and this is going to be drawing number 1, and this is going to be front view. It's also going on the same drawing, so we can put more than one viewport on the same sheet layer. Let's look at our layers again. We don't want to see the structure. Let's look at our classes again, and we don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want any of those. A quick way to do this is to hold your Shift key down and click. it'll turn off a whole bunch at the same time, and OK on that. So medium front, we're going to use dashed hidden line again. Let's look at our render settings, and we're going to choose dash style 1, and we're not going to sketch our results. Click OK. OK again. Now if this hasn't worked correctly, you will not see your crop going around this. It'll show the entire balustrade. So let's just move this and we'll see whether we can get these to line up. So I'm going to grab that corner there, touch this one here, let's come down a little bit, and you'll see that in order to get both of these on, it's a little bit tight. So maybe I need to make both of these half full size, so 1 to 2. And now I've got room to put my dimensions. If we select these two, and we will go to our settings over here, dash hidden line, so my background render settings, let's sketch our hidden line results, OK, and update. And you can see what's happened here, it's gone sketchy. If I zoom into that, there it is. So you can see it looks like it's early stage, it's drawn sketchy. Let's turn that off, and we will see our whole page again. So there we are, I've got these two lining up. Just remember I used my snaps and my smart cursor to get those to line up. Now I need to do the next view. Now the next view is really just a copy of this one, but looking from the other angle. So if I hold down my Option key or my Control key on a Windows machine and drag a copy of that across, I can then just change my view from front to right, update it, and all my settings are the same except for the view. So it's a really easy way to do this. Now this is going to change. I'm going to change the name of this and call it Side View VP. Remember, I put viewport at the end. I'm also going to copy this here. I'm just using my keyboard shortcuts, Control C, and just up here it's going to have the name, front view. I can just change it there and just type in side. So it's my side view. So that's a really handy way of being able to copy these things around. If I drag this up, Option again on a Macintosh, Control key on a Windows machine, and now let's change this from a right view to a right isometric view. Let's update that, and there's a right isometric view of my bracket. Once we've got our model, it's really easy to create more viewports. I'm going to create one more of these and copy that one. This time I want to change my crop. So right click, edit crop, and I'm going to delete that crop. When I exit my crop, it will show me the entire model. So if we go to layers and turn on structure and update, we should see there is more information there. If we don't see it, then it might be to do with these settings that we turned off here, or these classes. Let's turn them all back on again and update, and we should see the entire model is there. So there it is. This time we need to change our scale, maybe 1 to 5, maybe 1 to 8. We just need to fit the entire thing in. There it is. How do we change our crop quickly? Well, in the next exercise, you're going to learn about all of these basic tools. One of them is this one here, the clip tool, which you might wonder about. But if I use the clip tool in the second mode here, I can click to start there, and I can click here, and Vectorworks will actually just crop the rest of that viewport away. I'm going to undo that because I'd like to go right click and edit crop. But first of all, before we do that, we want to change some settings. So right click and we'll edit our camera view. So we are now in an area that allows us to change our camera view in Vectorworks for our viewport. So let's change to a normal perspective. Let's just get a view that we like. So we're going to change to this mode here. Now an easy way to get to this mode is to use your keyboard shortcuts. So if I don't change my tool, if I hold down the Control key, click on my mouse wheel button, I can change my view with the flyover. So that's quite nice to do that. If I click on the Return to Viewport, you can see there it is, there's my view. And what I need to do is to change the scale. That's still 1 to 5, so if I make it 1 to 4 or 1 to 2, that should grow a little bit. And if I go back to this viewport, right click, let's edit my camera. Okay, now I'm going to scroll in. So I'm going to use my scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom in, and then I'll return back to my viewport and see what that looks like. So we can make all these changes. Play with it, make the changes, and right-click, edit crop, and we might put a crop object. You can only have one object in here at a time, so we're going to crop that. Right-click. I'm going to jump to my annotations because I want to move that label. Let's exit my viewport crop and update. There it is. So that's my crop there. And it's still in hidden line rendering. So let's change this to a Renderworks style, or final quality. Renderworks is an easy one to change to, and we'll update that. Now we should see the textures on there. There's no background to this model. I can choose a Renderworks background. HDRI sky, mostly sunny. Let's try that one and we'll update again. Now if I change my view and look at it more from below, it'll look perfect. Let's go back to, we'll turn off our plane objects and update again. Nice. So let's go back, right click, and we'll edit our camera view. And this time we want to look further down. So again, I'll control key. Let's do this. And there's my horizon line over here. You can just see my horizon line's just gone past just here. Let's return back to my viewport and update. And we should see some clouds behind my model. There we are, so we can see our clouds. Now the model doesn't look as good as it could do, mainly because we haven't got any lighting. Let's return back to our balustrade. And I'll change back to a plain view, key 0 on my numeric keypad, and I'm going to see everything. So here we are here. And we'll zoom out. I'd like to put in some lights. We looked briefly at lights previously, so I'm going to put in a directional light here, and I want to put another directional light there. And at the moment they're both looking from the same direction, but I want to move one of them so it looks from the other direction. So I've got two lights, light 1, light 2. Here are their names down the bottom just here. Let's return back to our viewport. So we can go to our navigation viewport here. We can click here, make that the active layer, and let's see our page again. So this time we need to update. When we update, we might find that it's lit a little bit too brightly. We'll change this to 1:1 scale, I think, so we can see it more effectively. And you'll also notice that our crop object is cutting off a bit at the bottom, so we want to edit our crop. We want to bring that down a little bit further, and the reason we need to move it is because we changed our view. Exit our viewport crop and update. So we've got lights on our object here. Let's have a look at window on the menu bar just at the top here, palettes and visualization. Visualization allows us to choose and control the lights that are visible in this selected viewport. If we turn off light 2 and update our view, you'll see there's only one light showing, so there's only one shadow. The other thing we can do is right click on this and we can edit that light, and we can change the emitter brightness to 200%. Okay, let's update. And it's much brighter. So not only do we have the ability to turn lights on and off in our viewports, we have the ability to change the light intensity. So if we turn this one on, and we'll edit that light, and we'll make that light 50%, but it also casts shadows. This is our shadow button here. If I click there, it will no longer cast a shadow. So I've only got one light casting a shadow, but the second light is filling in some of my detail areas, which is kind of nice. So there we are. I need to change the scale of this. This is 1:1 at the moment. 1:1 is not quite what I want. 1:2 is not enough, so 1:1.3. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that fits much better. So we can close that, and we've had a look at this, and we can update that. All we need now is a title block. So let's have a look. Have we got a title block object here? We've used title blocks previously. You might remember we can click here, choose a custom title block, select that one, and we can double click to place it, and there it is. And we just need to move our objects around so that they're out of the way of this title block. We can right click on this and we can edit the plugin style. So this controls our settings for this object. We can look at our title block and we can edit our title block layout. Here's a button here for editing our title block layout. I might not want to have all this information there. I might want to get rid of these lines. I might want to move that to this point here. I may not want this logo here. I might want to get rid of that and bring in my own logo from somewhere else, which is quite possible. You just need a graphic image and you can drag and drop that in there. I'd like to have a look at this lesson 3.2. So we have here our design layer, we have our view here, and we also have a sheet layer view here, which is our general plan. This one. So let's start with our site plan. We want to have a look at our site plan. There's nothing on here, and I'd like you to do your site plan work. So select or click in this area to make this the active one. So just click here. We want to go to our site plan design layer. There it is. And we need to make a viewport of that. Remember, we can draw a rectangle. Select the rectangle, view on the menu bar, and create viewport. This is going to be my site plan viewport. It's drawing number 1, and it is site plan. Try to spell it correctly. What layers do we want to see? Just the site plan. What classes do we want? Probably all of them at this stage. What scale? 1 to 200, top plan view, click OK, and that places our site plan on there. Now at this point you might notice that I'm seeing things that I don't really want to see. So here you can see I've got electrical, I've got foundations. If we have a look at our classes, we might be able to start turning some of these off. So I can turn off that, I can turn off my door information, turn off my furniture. If you want to see if you've done the right thing, click on the preview button. So let's just scroll down. I want to turn off my hatching, the hatching detail, the joinery, non-plot wants to be turned off, framing notes want to be turned off, preview that again. It's starting to look much better. So we want to get rid of notes, plumbing, electrical, but we want to see our fixtures. We don't want to see our demolished ones. We want to see proposed services, soil, stormwater. We don't just want to see our, let's just have a look at that, preview that. We've got a whole lot of structural roof framing here that we want to get rid of, so we might want to get rid of our floor joists. And I just use the preview so I can see it. We want to get rid of floor joists, rafters, roof proposed. Let's get rid of that, preview that. So that's looking much better. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to get rid of my walls demolished as well. I think that's probably all I need. And now it shows the plan that the contractor is going to work to. Foundation. I don't need to name my foundation. So there we are. Nice clear plan. OK. And that'll be fine for that. So we can now go back to our design layer. This time we want to go back to floor 1. And we want to create a demolition plan. So if I have a look at everything, there it is there. I want to create a demolition plan. Remember I showed you to use the visibility tool. Now, because I have to change my workspace, I'm not going to do that. So let's just create our viewport again. So I'm going to create my viewport like that. View on the menu bar, create viewport. This is going to be my demo plan. It's not going on the site plan, it's going on my demolition plan, and it is my demolition plan. Try to spell it correctly. What layers do we want to see? Just floor. What classes do we want to see? Well, now we know that we can get rid of a lot of stuff. So maybe we're getting rid of so much, it's easy just to go option click and then turn on the few things that you really need. So we don't need furniture, we need none, we need walls, existing, and we need walls demolished. And I think I've got a notes as well. Notes demolition, so we need that as well. Okay on that, okay on that. And there's my demolition plan. When we zoom in to have a look, you can see there's their information. So let's look at classes here, and we'll come down to walls demolition because we want these to stand out really well. So let's go edit there. Let's make that solid. We'll make it a gray color. We'll make this line very heavy, and okay. And so now we've got a very clear plan for what needs to be demolished. Now we're missing our notes. Let's go back to our notes and see if we can find our notes for demolition. So back to floor 1. Now I thought we had some notes over here. Let's just zoom into this. So this is our demolition notes. So let's put a rectangle over that. And we will go View on the menu bar, Create Viewport, and these are my demo notes. Do we want to create a drawing label? No, we do not. So layers, classes, we shouldn't have to change any of that because we just have to have that little note, drag it off to the side here, and there we've got my notes. So anytime I update the notes, this will update. Anytime I update my plan, this will update. So that shows you how you can use class overrides in your viewports. If I wanted to see a floor plan, we can go back to our floor here. Let's create another viewport. So create viewport. This is going to be my general plan. And this does want to show a lot of this information, but it doesn't want to show any of the structure. So what layers? We want to see the roof as well. Okay. What classes? We can get rid of that one, that one. We can get rid of some of this framer stuff here. I know we're not using any of that. We don't want to see our furniture. Maybe we do if this is a general plan. We don't want to see the hatching. We want to see the joinery. But we want to remove notes foundation, notes framing. We want to see our electrical. We don't want to see any demolished. We don't want to see our soil pipes or our stormwater pipes. We don't want to see anything structural. So here, structural, all of that stuff there, structural. We want to have roof demo turned off. Roof existing and roof proposed, that's fine, we'll leave that. We don't want walls demolished. We don't want to see our foundation walls. Walls lining, let's go okay. And if we've made a mistake, we can come back and fix this later. So in this case, I've made a mistake by putting it on the wrong layer. This can often happen if you're not careful with all of these things. So I wanted that to go on my general plan, and I can just move it. So let's have a look at my general plan. There it is, so I've just moved it. Let's just have a look here. It hasn't got a crop, so I forgot to do my crop. Right click, let's edit my crop. We'll put a rectangle in like that, and that will become my crop object. So that gets rid of all the stuff that I didn't want. And if I zoom out, you'll see my drawing label is missing because I forgot to make it. Because in my previous one I had that turned off. So there it is. So that's not bad, except, you might notice, I can't see my walls because my roof's in the way. Let's have a look at my classes. So if I come down here and I have a look at my roof, it's under structure, roof existing and roof proposed. I can select them both together. I can edit those and say they need to have no fill and they need to have a grey line, or I could make that a dashed line, so black, but a line type which might be a dashed line. And I've got loads of lines I can choose from. I just want to have something simple. Which one should I? That one looks fine. So let's choose that one. Okay, okay again. Let's just preview it and make sure it looks okay. And there you can see it, so you can see through my roof. I get the roof outline. You might notice that we got double dashes here because I've got two roof faces. So maybe we don't use the dash, we make that solid, but we make it semi-opaque, or make it a grey colour so that it doesn't stand out so much. Preview that. That might be better. Okay, so there's my drawing. So that's using class overrides to control the look of my drawings. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go through lesson 3.2 and create those viewports, and I'd also like you to go through lesson 3.2 building and create these viewports. It's really powerful, these class overrides. This is the end of lesson 3.2. In this lesson you learned how to create viewports in detail. You learned how to control annotation in viewports. You learned how to control viewport crops. You learned how to use class overrides. And you learned how to control lighting in viewports.